Welcome to the Pointy End. I'm Keith Sutherland. Today my guest is retiring councillor, Councillor Lisa Ruffell. Welcome.
Thanks, Keith. Welcome.
And firstly, congratulations on 8 wonderful years on council. You may not think they are 8 wonderful years, but well done on that term, and first bloke supporting you all the way, Martin, all the way through that period, particularly on that term when you were mayor. So well done. It's been a great effort, and 8 years is a long time of your life to give to the city of Greater Bendigo.
It is, but it was enjoyable the whole 8 years. I can say that sincerely. You always have your ups and downs in anything. So with council in 8 years, it's been ups and downs along the way, but I can really say that I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I've loved supporting my community and doing the work that I've done. And, you know, it's just time to take a step back. Got 3 grandchildren and I've got another one on the way, so it's time to enjoy the family life. Doesn't mean I'm going to be quiet.
I couldn't imagine Lisa being quiet, but that's fair enough.
Yeah, no, I still believe that sometimes being on a board or on an association or something, you can't really do much, but when you're off it, you can actually do a lot more and
Fair
achieve
enough.
things.
You must have felt greatly relieved yesterday when you saw all those ballots happening yesterday, and who would have been surprised with, say, 10 in your ward, 10 in Epilock, which was a bit of a surprise because they were talking more, and 12 in Lockwood ward. So everyone's wanting to get on council. Does that mean that they want to change? Does that mean they're unhappy with the current council? Or is it time for new blood?
Oh, look, it could be all of those, but I think it's like when I first went out on this journey, I was going to change everything. You know, you still are only one person and you're one vote. And unless you're a team of 9 working for the same goal, for making the Greater City Bendigo the best it can ever be for the future, you might as well forget it, you know, if you can't work together. But if you've got 9 people all thinking that they want to do their own thing, that's when it doesn't work. I started that journey 8 years ago thinking, yep, I'm number one, I can change a lot of things. You can't. You've got to try and work with everybody and make things for the future. I think in the 8 years that I've done, I've got more money put into footbaths and bread and butter things and drainage, trying to get the backlog. You know, there's still so much to do. But at the same time in that 8 years, we've got my botanical gardens at White Hills up. I would have loved to see that finished, but I was disappointed that, you know, Canterbury Gardens got over that. And that's what happens because other people wanted that to happen. It doesn't mean that that wasn't what I thought was any better than either one. It's just that I would have liked to finish the botanical gardens. You know, 8 years on and we're still not finished. That's just one scenario for me. Then I look at things that we've done with the airport. It's taken so long to get that up and going, but at least it's going. You know, we had a great plan in the first 4 years about the swimming pools. Now, whether it's right or whether it's wrong in people's eyes, we have got ageing pools, and we had a lot of forums, a lot of discussion, a lot of input about what should we do with these ageing pools, and we decided to close a few pools. Well, that backfired because then we had a new lot on that said, no, let's save this one and let's do this one. Let's not take a pool out in Long Gully and put a splash park in. And all great merit, but at the end of the day, we had a strategy and we didn't stick to it. But now we've got this aquatic centre happening, and that's fantastic. But the whole plan was to have the 4 points of coming into the city of Greater Bendigo have a really big aquatic centre, you could say. And we only needed one out at Kangaroo Flat and one out, you know, Epsom Way or Huntley, you know, that sort of White Hills, that corridor, and just fix up the Eagle Hawk one. And maybe in a longer term, we would be looking at something for Strathfield Say. When you change that direction, and it will change again now with this all new council coming on board, they'll change what we've put in place. It's disappointing that way.
You're really lucky in many senses that over the last 8 years, and I remember going to many council meetings in the early days, and you were pushing the Epsom because that was your ward back in those days. And it was drainage, roads, footpaths and things, grassroots stuff. And then all of a sudden we're doing all these development projects, we're doing all these infrastructure projects, Malumbra, and all these other big ticket items, the Mel, but we won't talk about the Mel.
No, we won't talk about that.
That's another subject in itself, a whole topic.
Yeah.
Basically all of a sudden, this council, the last 4 to 8 years, has been looking good because there's been a lot of achievements, but has it been to the detriment of roads and drainage? And we just look around, we've had floods, not so much, we went too bad, But yeah, there's been a lot of things that perhaps been let go because of the big ticket items.
You're true. Look, we had to let those things go because we were given so much money from state and federal funding. You know, it was just incredible to think that they thought the City of Greater Bendigo deserved this bonus of all this money for these projects. And, you know, what are you supposed to do? You knock it back and say, no, maybe that's what we should have done. But then if we wanted to see the foreseeing of the aquatic centre later on in, say, 10 years' time, it wouldn't be 30 million, it'd be double. So, you know, you sort of got this balancing act, and councillors will, and especially new councillors will understand that it's going to be hard for them to do that. It's disappointing that we didn't stick to saying, well, governments, why don't you give us some money for bread and butter things? And I still believe that there's a lot of governments, regardless who's in, do want to give for that project. They just haven't been pushed. Like really, we could have said that we've got drainage, you know, what is there, about...
There's a lot of money to be spent.
Yeah, I was going to say, is it 6, 7 million? It's so much in backlog. They could have given us a couple of $1 million, and plus with our couple of $1 million, we could have tried to get that backlog nearly up front, you know, so that we're with everyday drainage. But we didn't ask that. We didn't see that as a priority. And again, it's around the table of 9 councillors making the decision. I get really cross with some councillors advertising that it's all the staff telling us what to do. Of course they're giving us the reports and giving us the information. It's up to you as a councillor to ask the hard questions, go and do your own research if you don't believe what they've given you, and make a decision on it. And so therefore, I can't stress enough that 9 councillors decide to say, well, let's do the aquatic centre, and let's put the drainage aside. That's how it works.
Why don't I put it to you that you've got 2 council meetings, one tonight, one in a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks' time. Then it's all over for you. But the state government having sold the port for $9.7 billion, there's $1 billion almost to come back to regional Victoria.
Yeah.
Why don't you put it to them? You've got 2 council meetings to come up with a plan to go to state government and say, hey, we want some of this money because you've got probably $2 billion over and above what you expected. Let's get something back to regional Victoria, because it's terrific to have 50 rail crossings done in the metro area. But what about us? We're only getting 10% of the funds back. So I put it to you anyway that you've got 2 council meetings to fight.
When I saw that come on the telly, I thought, do I actually send a quick text to our Minister, Jacinta Allen, and ask that question? But then I thought, because it's not just me, I don't think I'm a sole person. I need to talk to the other councillors to say, is this the way?
Go out and bang. Make a big point of it.
Oh, I know. But I probably will still do it, but I still am very respectful of my other councillors, even though some aren't.
Fair enough. Come back to your term on council, those 8 years, and 1 year as mayor. What was the highlight for you during that time? You've given me all the reasons, all the wonderful things that have happened, but for you personally, what was sort of some of the highlights for you along that way, other than poor old Martin having to get his own dinner? And I did notice that he might have been going on MasterChef because he had to cook for himself, but I believe that's not true.
We'll park that, won't we, Keith?
We will.
Look, the only highlight that I really feel is important to say is the highlight of being, represented as a councillor. You know, when you get that, when you put your vote in and you see that come up and say you've won as a councillor for the Epsom ward, that was my highlight, to say, here I have been asked from my community to represent them. And then again, to get that same buzz again, and then also to say, I can be the mayor. I think they're the highlights, in the fact that you learn a lot more when you're the mayor because you're full-time. You understand the process a lot better because you've got more time to look at it all. And plus you get out to the community a lot more. And you hear the good and the bad. And, you know, I had a policy of having, you know, an open door policy as the mayor. And I think that was the best thing in that year. I had so many people come and talk to me and they say, I've never been in the mayor's office. Well, I said, well, it's 4 walls. There's a chair, there's a desk, papers there, you know, but this is what it's like. I think they're the highlights. I mean, you could say there's many projects, but I think the highlight is being actually accepted as a councillor, and the reward is that the community have voted for you, and then you've got to do your utmost best to try and achieve what they think that you should be doing, whether it's right or whether it's wrong.
I accept what you're saying, and I think that's a very good thing because you did open yourself up as mayor. Just one other point I wanted to make in your term as mayor, which I thought was terrific, to highlight what John Forbes, that collection he had, having that exhibition, and then following it through with your husband Martin writing a book for Forbesy, and that was fabulous. And some of those funds have come back to the community. So I see that as another highlight, and where you and I are both pushing to try and get a museum for Forbesy stuff, because that can't be just collected up at his farm. It's got to be in a place, proper place in Bendigo, because there is so much valuable stuff there, and will become we are already a sporting part of Victoria.
We are.
And to put Forbesy's stuff in a museum would be a pinnacle, I think, of what you started way back then.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And it's not only just for Forbesy, it's for everybody. There's so much in this community that when we did have that exhibit at the town hall, people coming up and say, well, when are you going? Where can we give you our stuff? We want to donate our stuff to put into a museum. You know, there's so much around that people, you know, want to give, and that's the best thing about this town, is that people do give, they do care. You know, they say, you know, you always have your 5% that have, you know, yeah, we don't care. But look, even the knockers, deep down, they're caring in their own way. But generally, Bendigonians do care.
All right, that's on the positive note. Now, what about a negative note? Because you say about all these great things. I can say that I think that the last 4 years, probably the first year was okay, but then the last 3 years of council, it's really been quite dysfunctional. The majority of you work well together. There's a few that don't. And then you listen to what goes on in council and go to a lot of the meetings, and you hear all this, and it is dysfunctional. And you know, there are times you think, well, boy, is the state government going to step in here? Has that been a negative to you, or is that just part and parcel of politics in general, local government in general, and we've got to try and work as a team, but teamwork doesn't seem to have happened over the last few terms? Yeah,
look, I think, Keith, people have misconstrued the dysfunctional part of the council.
That's what Rod Campbell said last week, but I'm not sure about that.
Oh, I didn't even... Okay. When I was the mayor, the most disappointing thing was the misconduct, you know, and what I went through and what it cost me personally. And to this day, it has not been solved. You know, the whole incident about 2 councillors mocking people in the mall, and that was what it was apparently, that has still not been decided on or been, you know, gone through the channels. All that has gone through is the way it was handled, you know, and I still to this day believe that I handled it to the process that I was told. And whether that was told the wrong information or whatever, I was still the mayor of the day, and I take that responsibility because that's what a leader does. And that was really disappointing. And then it just continued that year. But I was strong through that, and I just wasn't going to let that stop my year of really challenging myself and showing great leadership and trying to get a lot happening. And I think I did do that. The other thing is, I think around the table, we have meetings every Wednesday, not only in the chamber, but a forum. And in that forum, you have time to discuss, as 9 councillors, of what is going on, what you want to put up, what you want. You've got the directors there to ask questions if you've got an idea, what can be done. You know, there's so much you can do. And you have a few councillors that either don't read their information, don't listen to what's the discussion, or are only got their own agenda, and that's all they want to hear. And when you have people like that that think that it doesn't matter what you say to them, whatever you throw in front of them, information, documents, what they believe is right, and that's the way they think. You'll never change that. So I took on a real conscious effort after my mayor year to say, I'm not going to deal with that anymore. I'm going to do the best of my ability for the council and just not ignore it, but just work with it, but around it. Does that make sense? I'll give you one example, and I can say this because it really hasn't been portrayed properly. Daryl McClure, who I admire so much as a Liberal man in the years gone by, you know, we were told that at a forum that the family were in discussion with the mayor and about a plaque, and nothing has come to it because nothing was decided on, and we have got rules and process of how you deal with who you put plaques up for. And so therefore it will come back to us when we've got all the information, everybody's right. Well, we have one councillor that just decided to put up a motion that she wants it out in the public and calls the family in, sit through a whole council meeting to hear the whole councillors knock it down. And then it gets reported that it's knocked down. You know, and it was nothing to do. All the councillors agreed that, yeah, we should do it. But there was nothing to tell the public where it was going to go, what had been planned or what was happening. And she had already been told that in a forum.
Gets really personal, and it's a shame because
wrong.
Daryl has given his all, and I wouldn't be
Exactly.
sitting here today if it wasn't for Daryl McClure and Dennis English that started IPTv. And it's sad that, you know, for a plaque, and it hopefully can be put somewhere in Roslyn Park sometime in the future. Hopefully the family can agree. Hopefully the council can agree. But anyway,
But Keith, but the whole thing is the council will agree. We just needed the information to agree on. You can't just put up a motion and say you're going to agree on something if you haven't got the information. That'd be voting on something that you don't know nothing about.
well, that's my point about.
Yeah.
I think it's
So
dysfunction.
there was no question about councillors wanting that to happen, and that's what I'm saying is in a forum we had that lengthy discussion about it, and still you get hit out in the public arena for that reason, and it was wrong, and it was really disrespectful to him, I thought, and that's my personal thoughts.
Fair enough. Finally, what's the future? You mentioned before that you want to go back to being a grandmother, 3 grandkids, one on the way. So is that the future, you and Martin, to sit back and enjoy? You won't sit back because that's not your style, that's not Martin's style.
Yeah.
But is that what the future is? A bit more travel and enjoy life? And obviously you're working as well.
Yeah.
Martin's working,
Yeah.
so it's not so easy to do all that when you're around travel. But what's the future hold for you in retirement, semi-retirement?
Well, semi-retirement is really not sitting back. I've got plans to do a lot more for retail and small business because that's my probably one bare bug that I haven't achieved in council is that I don't think we've done enough for retail. We have a business council that doesn't look after small business retail, and we really need to be working together, and they don't seem to want to work together. Tourism should be working with retailers. I've been pushing that. It hasn't seemed to want to work together. You know, if you put all the small businesses together and the amount of people that they employ is a lot more than council or the Bendigo Bank or the hospital, but we seem to help these people, but we don't help small business. And so I'll be out there doing a fair bit. Just watch this space, I can say on that one.
Looking forward to it and probably having her back and talking about this post your council life. Again, Lisa, congratulations to a wonderful term, or 2 terms on council, what you've done for the community, that Bendigo is a better place for having had you as mayor, councillor for that period of time, and I wish you well in your retirement or semi-retirement, and I will look for this space to see what you're going to do for the retail traders around town, small business, because it is something that's certainly overlooked, and I agree that I think Business Council perhaps is not embracing that all under their umbrella, and it should be. But anyway, thank you for appearing on the Pointing End today, and I wish you well for the next 2 council meetings.
Thanks,
And
Keith.
beyond.
Thank you.